His bold and beautiful work has been exhibited all over the world and emanates from the soul and transformative life's journey of Fabian Debora. His life story as colorful as his art. He grew up in the projects in Boyle Heights, raised by a single mom and an often absent dad addicted to heroin. At just 12 years of age, he joined a gang, in and out of jail for much of his young life. A life he tried to end several times. Until, he says, an encounter with God saved him and allowed him to redeem himself through the power of art. And not just for himself, but for countless kids just like him. Now, Debora has been honored by the National Endowment for the Arts as National Heritage Fellow, recognized not only for his striking artwork, but also for his mentorship of kids facing gang struggles.
Don't be ashamed of your past.
All through the healing power of art.
Living as a first-generation Mexican-American Chicano in Boyle Heights meant facing barriers, gangs, drugs, and violence. All of these things threatened to dull my dreams, but no matter how dark it got, I held on to my art. This acknowledgement from the National Endowment of the Arts Heritage Fellow is a true testament to how one's belief and commitment to preserving the Chicano mural movement is vital. It's proof that the power of the arts can create a ripple effect of hope for future generations. I thank you.
Award-winning artist Fabian Debora, he is the subject of today's LA Stories Revisited. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a really cool edition of LA Stories. I'm Giselle Fernandez, and we are in downtown LA with renowned muralist and artist Fabian Debora, whose work often depicts gang and immigrant life here on the streets of LA. What an honor to meet you. Congratulations on the immense body of your work.
Thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
When you think back in the day, when you were in the gang and you're in addiction and incarceration, did you ever imagine back then you'd be where you are right now?
No, it was very difficult. When you think about what was going on back then, it was a very dark moment in my life. Although when I would pick up my pencil and doodle, there was the glimmers of hope, the glimmers of light, but I still cannot foresee that I would be sitting here today.
Your childhood seems to inform a lot of your work. You grew up in the Aliso Village housing projects in Boyle Heights. You had a single mom. Your father was often absent, heroin addiction, a lot of fighting in the house.
He became his best customer, and he started to use the drug rather than just sell it. And that's when I feel that I lost my father into this trajectory of incarceration, which left me to be raised by my mother as a single mother, and that burden is not easy for a 5 or 6 year old to carry.
I understand you would escape to drawing.
I was able to create a space for me, which I would go and hide under a coffee table, and there I would pick up my notebook and I would begin to create my own worlds to escape my reality.
What did you draw?
Hopeful images of mother, father, holding son, walking into the sunlight.
The perfect family.
The perfect family, and I would just create that, which brought a sense of peace and hope at the time. And then I discovered, wow, this is a gift, and it's a gift of art. It was enriching to my broken spirit at the time.
Oh yeah, I can understand. And I read this crazy story when you were in the 8th grade, and a teacher found you drawing in class, and instead of seeing the gift in you, they grabbed it, tore it up, and you threw a chair and got expelled. How did it feel to have that teacher rip up that drawing?
It's almost as if he ripped my heart in half. Everything that I was coping through and dealing with, my father, the domestic violence, the abandonment, the neglect, it all came back to the surface. Now that teacher reminds me of my father, but he's not my father. And that's when I grabbed the desk and I threw it at him. And then that day, Fabian was considered to be the bad kid. Fabian is no longer graduating. So now it's time to go break your mama's heart and let her know to cancel the graduation party. And I think in that moment, not only was I betrayed by my father who could not protect me, but also my community who didn't step up in time of need. That's when I looked around and I said, you know what?
I'm alone.
and choices start to shape in a different manner.
Hurt people, right?
Absolutely.
So you were sent to your parish priest after you were
Oh,
expelled,
absolutely.
and you didn't know then, but he would become the legendary Father Greg Boyle, who founded Homeboy Industries, a celebrated, now world-renowned gang intervention program. He became your mentor.
Father Greg, unlike any other human being at the time, when he saw me, he goes, "What happened, son?" I go, "Well, this guy ripped my artwork and no one's gonna take that from me but me." And then he goes, "Ay, mijo, I'm not gonna be able to save you, son. You're gonna get expelled. But before you leave, son, I want you to do something for me." I go, "What's that, Father Greg?" "I want you to go home and draw me something." I was like, "What?" For the very first time.
Somebody honoring you.
I wasn't punished and penalized for what I love to do. He actually saw me for me, and he recognized my gift of art, and he returned it back to me.
What gift, right?
And many of the reasons why probably I'm still creating art. I start to draw the helicopters, the bullets flying, the sirens, the police officers, people on the floor, things that I was experiencing in these housing projects. It was a decade of death.
That support from Father Greg, as for so many formerly incarcerated and gang members, was so vital to you, but not enough. Gang life, there was a lot of pressure to join. You needed a family. And at 12 years old, you said you made the worst decision of your life.
Yeah, well, look, for me, all I wanted to do was create. I wanted to do art ever since I discovered it under that coffee table. But I was always being told not to do what I love. And then I got into graffiti art, right? And that too was vandalism. And so constantly being reminded not to do what I love. So I would then go to the LA River because it was located right behind the housing project. So that became the largest studio I ever had. And I would start to perfect my skills in forms of graffiti art. And, you know, on one of those events, the gang surrounded me. They wanted me to claim the gang in that territory, pretty much trying to force me in. That night, they jumped me, beat me to a pulp. And every time they would punch, I would see an image of my father behind bars who could not protect me from what's taking place. They would punch, and I would see an image of my mother sitting beside her bed, weeping, wondering how she's gonna make ends meet. And that day, I joined the gang, which I learned that that was the worst mistake I ever made.
You got addicted to crack and then meth and started this cycle in and out of juvie and then jail until you were 30 years old.
I'd start to look into the mirror, and I'd look, and I'm becoming just like my father.
You had children already and said that that look in the mirror, you couldn't break the cycle of your own addiction, just like your dad couldn't.
Right. I was broken and hurt because the same pain my father instilled in me, now I'm the one instilling in my children. And I know what that pain felt like, and I didn't want to be that guy.
You had a real breakdown, were suicidal several times in your life, even tried to cross the 5 freeway. And then you talk about having an encounter with God that changed everything. What was that?
It was when I ran across the freeway. I remember the voices that were so amplified that were saying, "Kill yourself, kill yourself." And then they get demonic, "Kill yourself, you worthless piece of shit, kill yourself." And in that moment, first lane, second lane, third lane, ain't no turning back. Cars are coming full speed.
Oh my God.
And as I see a truck coming at a distance, it's not stopping. So I twist my body, clench my fist, and then I said, "My kids." Last cry for help. And in that moment, God recognized that I do have a heart and that I do want more. And in that moment, it was only through the grace of God that I felt this gust of wind and felt the impact, but it was not that of the truck. I hit my chest so hard in the center divider, and then I hear, the truck did not hit me. I looked towards the sky and I saw these sun rays dancing beautifully, and I received the feelings of peace, joy, happiness, and serenity, the feelings that can only come from something much more greater than myself. Well, that day I learned and understood that every son must return to his father. Well, that day I did, and the thought of my children was the purpose why you get to live, a sense of rebirth. I asked my mother and my wife to please hold on. It's time. Don't leave me. I need you all more than ever. I did 6 months in rehab. Once I got clean, I recognized where the pain was coming from, and it was that of my father. I forgave him, came to Homeboy Industries to look for a second chance, followed Father Greg again.
What did you say?
I said, "You said the minute I deal with my drug problem, You will give me a stepping stone to get my life back on track. And he goes, and I keep my promise. You start Monday. And that same feeling that I received in the freeway incident, it's the same feeling I received when Father Greg gave me my opportunity to get my life back on track. And when he gave me my opportunity, I knew it was all bets are off. It's time for me to reclaim my crown. For if I am el rey de mi papá,
The king of your father?
if I'm the king of my father, then it's time that I reclaim my crown. And that's when my life began to take a whole different.
And that's where we're going to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to take a look at Fabian Debora and his emergence into the LA art scene and his dominance in it when LA Stories comes right back. Welcome back to LA Stories, everyone. We are here with celebrated Chicano artist Fabian Debora, whose work has been exhibited in LA, in the US, and across the world. When you got sober and decided to turn your life around, Father Greg convinced your probation officer to let you be an apprentice to Wayne Healy. This is one of the founding members of the Chicano mural movement here in Los Angeles, right?
Yes. When I walked in and I saw these large-scale murals on the walls, I was like, whoa, this is what I've been missing in my life. Gave me an opportunity and a window to make me believe that I too can do such big, large-scale murals and beautify the city in this way.
You know, these opportunities allowed you to meet with a lot of artists and break into
The art world.
the art world.
Absolutely. It's not just for self, but it's for the people. It is me communicating and embodying the voices of those who go unseen or unheard of the voiceless, right? And in this case, the image of the gang member is central in my art, as well as children.
Let's talk about some of your famed pieces. The one I want to ask you first about is Pay Me No Mind. This is such a profound work because it's a former gang member or gang member just at the moment he's going to decide to change his life.
It has to do with placing the gang member at the center, which is the image of a father figure. You see the city of Los Angeles on fire, right? So we're saying, may it burn, pay me no mind, for I'm at the center. I ain't got time for what's going on in the city, you know, because I remain centered, which I am the foundation to my children, so I am the father figure, full circle.
Mi Madre de Los Angeles, the mother of Los Angeles. Talk to me about this because La Virgen de Guadalupe is such a central archetype in Latino communities. Why was this important to you?
When I see La Virgen de Guadalupe, I see my mother, or the madrecitas of our communities, who are constantly praying for their children or their loved ones. And so when I did this painting, it was the image of a gang member who is repenting in front of La Virgen de Guadalupe, as a form of saying, I see you and I know you see me and you embrace me as I am.
Talk to me about My Virgin of the Mary. Who is that about?
That painting was inspired by my daughter. And I'll be like, Mama, who is that? When we would stop at a light and she goes, that's the Virgin of the Mary. So it prompted me to paint her as the young Virgin Mary. And I think the invitation is for all young women in our communities and those that we come across, that they see themselves as powerful as La Virgen de Guadalupe.
Oh. You also did a series of city lamp drawings and bridges. This was part of a LACMA drawing collection. What to you did it signify about our city?
The bridges have been very essential in my life. I think the bridges to me represent transcendence from the east to the west, but also it represents structure, right? Like it's hard, and I think for me that's the hope. But also the bridges held me when I would go into the LA River, and I would find the river to be my refuge away from all the violence. And there was a sense of peace that I discovered there. And at the same token, not many folks are probably aware, but each lamp signifies what bridge it is in Los Angeles.
Wow, really beautiful. Your sky is falling. You made this in 2020 during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what it felt like?
Actually, it did, because, you know, when you think about the pandemic and what it brought to our communities, you know, the fear, not only the death, but also the reminder of going unseen, right? The invisibility that takes place, because not to discredit or remove away from, the caretakers such as the nurses and the fire department and the police officers. But what about the essential worker of the farm worker? Why are we not shining light on them? We're only perpetuating the invisibility that already exists. So I painted the image of the farm worker with the mask falling from the sky as a reminder to share to the world that we're also here. We're also an essential worker.
You're out to kind of change the negative associations with the hood. And you have this one painting that really is emblematic of that, where these tattered Converse shoes are slung over the telephone wires. And to many, that would signify that this is the hood and this is where drugs are sold, but not to you.
No, absolutely not. When we were kids, lack of resources, lack of opportunities, or even privileges, we will make fun out of anything. And in this case, it was the shoes, right? I bet you I could throw them higher. So we throw them up, and it was a game of horseshoes. It's an invitation to the world to invite them to see the beauty within our community, even the inner cities, in this case, the project life.
It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. You also painted the ceiling, a mural on the ceiling of the LAX American
Absolutely.
Airlines terminal, meaning that when Angelinos come home or people from all over the world come to the City of Angels, that's their first welcome. How does that feel?
Well, that was another milestone in my life, and as an artist, never did I think of that. And a little essence of graffiti life, but in this time legally and more elegantly, and to welcome the people with the LA flavor, no brainer.
And that's not the only thing that you can be really proud of. You also did love letters, portraits.
Right.
Of often people who are made to be invisible, that you shine a big light on.
This was funded by Creative Corps, painting these 10 formerly incarcerated men and women who are often made to be the monstrous ones. It's the window to help us peel the layers and get to the core of their true stories and recognize all the root causes of what has caused them to make these choices. That's the beauty, and that's how we remove all stereotypes, and that's how we create paths and hopes that we can bring people together to give more than one chance, but a sustainable opportunity, so that we can all make the world a safer place.
You go deep. They're just not paintings to put up on a wall. You go deep.
Yeah, it's part of my advocacy.
Hey, I can feel it. We're going to take a break right there, but when we come back, we're going to take a look at your work that you're very proud of, Cara de Vago, the face of what, a vagabond?
A wanderer, a vagabundo, yeah.
When LA Stories comes right back. Welcome back to LA Stories, everyone. We're here with renowned muralist and artist Fabian Debora, and his work is called Cara de Vago. You have 13 works, I understand, where you formed this kinship with Caravaggio. This is a 17th century artist who was known as the bad boy of his era.
Yeah.
And you identify with him. He was incarcerated, he got in trouble all the time, but what about his work really spoke to you?
I run parallel to his experience in a way. And he found his spirituality through his bodies of work. And that is exactly what has happened to me. There's this notion that says that God lives in all people and that we must live in the image of God. And then the world reveals itself. And sometimes you recognize that not everyone is living in that way. So then I say, how can I create these bodies of work to invite us to see God in all people? And for me, it's to allow some things of the past to die in order to find spirituality to continue to live. With hopes we can find the center together as human beings, because as gang members, we also been hurt, and like you mentioned earlier, hurt people. So when does the healing begin? And we hope that these works of art can bring that healing that we are seeking for all people.
Well, you've made not just an incredible career that's now ongoing and unfolding in the art world, but you always have made it your mission to give back. You don't only run the La Clase Academy, but you also run the Homeboy Arts Academy as its executive director. What does it feel like to have gone there when you were in crisis, and now you're the leader and the head of an arts program there?
No, yeah, I think there are times I tear up, and I say, wow, this was once a thought, and it was a dream, and now it's a reality. And I think that's exactly what God had in mind when He gave me that second opportunity to overcome that freeway incident. You know, for it is through your children that you get to live. Well, in this case, not just my immediate children, but the children of the community, the youth.
What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy would be to just make sure that I don't go unforgotten, but at least to let the next generations know that there is a path, there is a way. Y si se puede, seguro que sí.
Yes, you can. I'm so wildly inspired by your story and your beautiful art and your mission to save others in the way you were saved by the healing power of art. I consider it a privilege to have sat with you. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
What a pleasure. Fabian Debora, an amazing LA story. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time. Beautiful. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.